Are you curious to know what God has to say about your hopes and dreams for this new year? I am April Rodgers, and this is the Reflecting Light Show. Come alongside me as we discover why new wine deserves new wineskins. Happy New Year, friend. It is 2024, and I'm sure that you have big hopes, big dreams, big resolutions. I do as well, and I love it that we serve a God who is all about the new. 2023 was a hard year for me personally. I had 3 major surgeries. 2 of them were planned, but 1 wasn't. And so it felt like every single time I would start to get back into a rhythm, I would get knocked back down again, and I would have to start that healing process all over. But our God is faithful, and I made it through. However, I did feel like I was bubble wrapped emotionally. It was like God took this protective layer of covering and he put it over me. And I was very grateful, and I felt blessed to have that because it meant that I could focus on my physical healing. But after a while, it became concerning because I did not feel anything. I did not feel like laughing. I did not feel like crying. I just was numb. And it wasn't until I started to preach through the I am statements found in the Gospel of John to my small group, and I get to Jesus as the Good Shepherd, that I start to have this soul restoration. Because remember, whenever Jesus says, I am the Good Shepherd, what does that make you think of? Well, it always makes me think of the 23rd Psalm and David's words whenever he says, the Lord is my shepherd. I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. And as I heard that word restore and it fell fresh on my ears, I grabbed hold of it and I said, Lord, I want that. I want a soul restoration in the worst way. And so I started to pray, like, Lord, will you wake me up emotionally? Will you give me a want to go to work and this motivation? Will you give me that back in my life? Will you take away this apathy? Will you give me a restoration of my soul? And as I was praying, I started to feel like I might be praying for too small of a thing, because as I researched the word restore, what I found is, as it pertains to God, He is a God who not only takes things back into its original state of being, but He takes it to the next level. So think with me about the Garden of Eden and how that was a wonderful place. It was utopia, how amazing it must have been before sin entered into it. Well, God, whenever He comes and He's going to restore it in the last days, He's not just going to send it back to its original version, but He is going to take it up a notch. It's going to be even better than it originally was. So I thought about that in my own life, and I thought, Lord, I don't want to just go back to the original state of being that I was in, even though that was a really good place to be in. But I wonder if you have something new in store for me. What kind of new thing do you want to do inside of my life? And as I started to pray about this, I thought about this verse in Matthew 9:17. This is Jesus speaking to the Pharisees, and He says, neither do people pour new wine into old wineskins. If they do, the skins will burst. The wine will run out and the wineskins will be ruined. No, they pour new wine into new wineskins, and both are preserved. All right, so what we find in ancient Near East is they would take the skins of a goat and they would lightly tan them, and then they would sew them together. And the winemaker would take his new wine and he would pour it into this new wineskin and then sew it up completely, allowing the grape juice to ferment. And as it did this, it would expand, and it would, inside of those new wineskins, if they were new, they could accommodate that expansion and that growth. But if the wineskins were old, they had already reached their maximum capacity. So as the gases are emitted from the fermentation, if the wineskins were old and it reached past that capacity, it would burst. And so that meant that all the work that the winemaker had done to harvest his crop, to take that grape, to press it, to make the new wine, all of it was gone in an instant. Who would want that? Nobody would want that, right? No, the winemaker would want to make sure that his precious wine was poured into new wineskins, so then that way it would be preserved. And the same is true for us in our everyday lives. If we want God to do a new thing and we want to be preserved, then we must be willing to be poured into the new wineskins. And when Jesus is giving this verse, he's talking about the law, and he's saying, as necessary and as wonderful and as good as the law was, he had come to do a new thing. And that new thing was to provide grace and to provide freedom. And it couldn't be contained inside the construct of the law, inside those old wineskins. No, it had to be put into new wineskin so that that grace and that freedom could multiply. And that is who our God is. And so I think about that for my life, and I'm sure that you think about that for your life too. What kind of new thing do you want to see God do in 2024? Well, we have got to trust him. Just like we trusted him with our yesterday, just like we trust him with our tomorrow, we've got to trust him in the here and the now in today's day and age to do a new thing inside of us, because he wants to restore us. He doesn't just want to take us back into that old version of ourselves, even though that might have been a really good version and very necessary for that time period, but he wants to move us into a new space. But we have to trust him, and we have to be obedient. And that's one of the things that is going to stretch us and to make us grow and to expand into the new. So what is it that you're hoping and you're praying for? I hope that in this new year, you will join me as we dream big and that we allow him to do the unimaginable. But it also means that we're going to have to trust his timing, and we're going to have to walk in faith. And that is how he can take that new wine and put it into the new wineskins, because our new wine deserves that new wineskin. But I love how it also says that he wants to preserve us. He wants to take and he wants to cover us and make sure that we can be who he has intended for us to be. So in this new year, let's allow him to do the new thing that he is calling upon us to do. I hope that you have enjoyed today's episode of the Reflecting Light Show. And if you have, please hit that subscribe button and share it with a friend. I also want to let you know that I wrote a brand new devotional guide called Resting in Jesus. It is a 30-day walk with Mary and Martha. You can find out how to pre-order it on my website, aprilrodgers.com. Until next time, I hope that you have a wonderful start to your new year and go out and be the light.